about this after I finish it. In the same year her father left Kurdistan for Germany, Shukriya was born on the holiest night of the year. You were born the night after the month of fasting had ended, her mother told her. It was February and the weather was fine. In spite of the fear and the violence sweeping the region, the roadblocks and the checkpoints cropping up on the dusty and empty roads, the military bases appearing on the mountaintops high above where the villagers tended their sheep and goats, life in the village of Kuchuka somehow went on as usual. During Ramadan in 1972, the tension of life under martial law gave way to the usual excitement of holiday visits and preparations. The sacrificial goat had been killed and cured with salt. Inside a bag made from the goat's skin, the village women had taken turns shaking yogurt to make butter for the feast that marked the end of the month-long fast. They baked in shifts at great communal clay ovens, piling up stacks of fresh, hot nane. Finally, on festival night, everyone retreated into their houses to prepare tea and snacks for the rounds of visiting. In the mountains of Kurdistan, the breeze picks up in the evenings, carrying the pungent scent of wild herbs into the village houses. Tonight, as Mehmet, Shukriya's father, paid visits to family and friends to wish them an auspicious and happy year, he would have enjoyed its fragrance, mingling with the aromas of fresh black tea, homemade sweets, and the special treats only made on this night each year. While he made the rounds from house to house, Adla, his wife, prepared to wash the children for the evening feast. She had cleared one stall in the stable behind the house where she was preparing the girls' baths. She was at the tail end of her 7th pregnancy. Her loose, soft robes billowed around her swollen body as she moved. She had just returned from fetching water and had lifted the large wooden canisters from the donkey's sweaty back. The country's ambitious irrigation projects had never reached these Kurdish hinterlands, and so the villagers here still relied on the natural water supply. The Doans used 2 creeks. The one for bath water and for the animals was half a kilometer away, but the one with drinking water was more than 3 kilometers away. Every few days, Adla went to the drinking water creek with her 4 girlfriends who had accompanied her through her chores from girlhood into womanhood. There was little leisure time, so the women wove leisure into their long work days, and in sharing their daily struggles, they created a place where they could share their deeper troubles. Life lived together was life worked together. Adla wiped the frothy sweat off the donkey's flanks and began to build the fire to heat the water. The house was full of guests, and she knew she should be entertaining. But she sat on a pile of dry grasses to rest her throbbing feet and stole a moment of solitude. Suddenly, slow waves of pain radiated out from her pelvis to her thighs, rippling up her spine. The baby, she thought. It's time. She sat on the floor, her breath rasping in low, windy moans. She called out to her eldest daughter, Ramziya, and told her to fetch her mother. Like all women in the region, Adla brought her children into the world without doctors, without prenatal or postnatal care programs, without hospitals or ultrasounds or epidurals. The nearest hospital was many miles away, and Adla had never heard of a doctor specializing in childbirth and in women's reproductive health. During her first pregnancy, she had been 13 years old, and she hadn't even realized she was pregnant until she went into labor, which she had mistaken for a bad case of indigestion. Armed with nothing more than instinct and the personal experience of her previous childbirths, Adla felt that something was going horribly wrong this time. She swallowed hard, trying to calm the violent nausea rising in her throat. With a deep breath, she began to push. She pushed and gasped, her face red and sweating, and the baby began to emerge into the world. But it came feet first. Adla's mother drew back and cried out that she couldn't have anything to do with such bad luck. She left her daughter alone in that animal stable, where she sat panting. Adla cried out roughly to her second daughter, Fauzia, and told her to run for the old lady in the village that everyone called for births and deaths. Soon, Fauzia returned, leading the old lady, who led Adla's anxious mother back into the room behind her. The old lady knelt beside Adla and placed a rough hand on her lower abdomen, kneading it with her knobby, calloused fingers. She quickly drew her hand back and reached around her back for her braid, which she thrust deep into Adla's gaping mouth and into her throat. Adla's body convulsed with a deep gag, and the baby slid out into Adla's mother's waiting arms. She was a little girl, that she would be named Haspia. And then, just as the old lady was gathering her skirts to leave, Adla's mother told her to wait, that there was another baby. After one more gag, out slid the second daughter. She would be called Shukriya, meaning gratitude, a second child to be grateful to Allah for.